It always comes to this. More nice shit. Hello there guys, back again to another tattoo progress update today. Where I last left off, I showed off the red on my forehead, the third pass on this eye over here, and the third pass on the back of the neck. See if I can show that. Not sure if that's doing the trick or not, but there it is. Hard to see behind yourself. Makes some of these vlogs are a little hard to do because it's hard to show off the area that I've had tattooed. That will be the case with my leg tattoos in a major way. I need to figure out a way that I'm going to be able to show those off a little better, because showing off the Nosferatu tattoo was a bit of a nightmare. With that said, that'll be the primary objective of most of next year, is going to be working on leg tattoos. And I do have a few ideas up top, but they're not hard yet. I don't have a good idea of what I want to do. I've got this space on the sides of my head that's all red, and the back of my head, and I've had some people quite forcefully asking me about what the plan is for those spots. I do have a plan. I also will potentially do a little bit more, believe it or not, in spaces between my neck. I might bring the spider web up. I don't know, we'll see. I've got some ideas for that, but nothing crystal clear yet. A couple weeks off while the shop is closed will do me some good, just so I can kind of figure out what I want to do with Terry, kind of in the remaining spaces. I do have some ideas. It's not just kind of like random, chaos. I've had some people ask me if I have these things planned far in advance or not, and most times the case is, yes, and other times not as much. But I do want to do some stuff with the last bits of red that I haven't done anything with, because that was always kind of intended as a backdrop for something like we did with the spider eye over here, or the big spider in the eye here. The white and stuff did a lot better. Obviously, it's a little dry, but all of this stuff healed really easily. Before I get into what Rick and I did today, I will show close up the forehead edition is of course very dark. I expected that would be the case, even in the time that we spent in between fresh and the video the next morning. It had darkened substantially. Part of that is the fact that the red was first pass, and part of it is the black that we covered was fairly new and still very dark. It's not always like a set amount of time before black softens, and it depends largely on the area you're covering too. But that black was done twice, and it wasn't a cover up of much, so we did do an addition, but that black wasn't covering anything. And when you put fresh black on skin versus putting black over top of old tattoos, the black does go quite a bit blacker fairly easily. That's not to say that you can't get a very dark black over something else. It's just to say that the black that you get over negative space is going in with no mixing at all, and so you get a more true black very easily. So the black that I had on my forehead, much like the black on the bats on my eyelids here, was very, very dark. So that doesn't mean that we can't get it, as bright as what we have over here, or even here if I wanted, theoretically. It just means that it was the first pass and it was going to be pretty dark. So I will probably hit that again. I may even hit it again in my final appointment with Terry before Christmas for the second pass, and then eventually down the road we'll do a third pass of it, and it will be as red as any of this stuff here. And that was Nebula Red, and so if we had used Red Velvet, it would have been even darker, believe it or not. But I like how it looks even now, and it puts further emphasis on the opaque that's in there. And you can tell more now that it's opaque or white rather than negative space than you could when it was black. When it was just black, that stuff had the appearance of negative space. Whereas now it's got more of the glow of opaque or a white ink. And so even just that much, I think it added some emphasis and kind of brought it in with the rest of what we have here, or that is very clearly not the same as that. So with that said, Rick and I had a session today. We did about 2.5 hours. We tied up this stuff on here. There was some stuff kind of in the crook of the elbow here that we did, and kind of carried on through down here, and then there was some stuff in the front that hadn't been done again. And it's very clearly mapped out to attack the hand again soon. We also are going to be doing the red again, and there's some red kind of more or less everywhere. We definitely need to get into the red in here again, where that was only done the one time. All of that is pretty thin, and so it can definitely be bolstered quite a bit very easily now, where it's been months since we touched it. But next week, Rick wants to head back up here. Now this is all healed up, leave the lower arm alone for a bit, which I'm more than fine with. I never really care where we're going. There's still plenty to do. We want to add some more of this texture that we started here up into this spot, kind of carry it up so that that's more incorporated further up. And Rick wants to do a little bit more dark in here as well, so there'll be some darker shading in there. And then if we have time, he wants to get into this piece again, because as much as we've done in here, he still wants to do more with it. And for me, the thing is, as long as there's progress weekly, I don't really care how long it takes or where we work. So for me, it's like, sure, doesn't really matter what we're doing. I think we've got probably 5 more targets to hit on that sleeve before all that's left is kind of tweaks, highlights, etc. Now, that doesn't mean I think there's only 5 or 6 sessions left. I just mean that there's 5 or 6 areas that aren't as good as they could be. But overall, the whole sleeve it's really looking about as good as it can in a lot of places for what we are going for. This sleeve was never meant to be bright. It's meant to be dark, so it wasn't going to be this bright anywhere. The whole thing was supposed to be darker, and so we don't really want bright everywhere. We want bright points, right? We want bright spots, like in the yellow and the eyes and stuff, and the suction cups, and the kind of yellow glow that we've got, and the little someone asked me if these were literal warts on my arm one time recently, and so I think that the yellow high points have worked and they've done their trick. With that said, we do want dark spots to give kind of weight and contrast to the light spots, but there's some stuff to do yet, obviously, and I'm more than apt for that challenge, obviously. So we're a few weeks from Christmas here. Probably going to do my hand right before Christmas, and that'll be good time to take time off from work and kind of heal up the hand. Hopefully we can hit it really hard and get some more vibrant colors into the hand, because the hand is very clearly the worst part of the sleeve by all metrics currently, which should be no surprise. The elbow is doing a little better here, but there's some spots that haven't peeled yet, and you can still see that callus coming through. So I'm hoping that we've got it better than we had it, but I'm obviously open to doing it again and again as many times as we need to get it fairly up to snuff. But again, even this elbow isn't really great. It's just the color palette is better to accommodate the callus that we have in there. You can see when we get close, the line weight is very, very shaky, and the spider web even was eaten up by that callus. And so just using that yellow was a wise idea. So I think down the road, what Rick will eventually do, if we can't get that callus to fuck off, is we'll just use more yellow in that suction cup and move on. I think that'd probably be the wise idea for that. I do have a session with Terry coming up this week. I have a big session on my back planned. I'm going to try and get everything I want hammered out all in one go. I would like to be able to do the entire span of the lower back white and some of the black again, and all of the color, and then some white highlights in the top. So I'm thinking we're probably going to do around 5 or 6 hours on my back. I don't know. We might have to break it up into 2 sessions. If we do, that's fine. But I think I could just sit for one big session and we can get most of what we need to do out of the way. It again is staying very well. So it hasn't really changed much. You can see from here. But all that blue could go to, again, all the light blue could be stronger. Some of the red and yellow can obviously get better. All of that is done between 2 and 3 times over black. And so coming in again now after it's been just about 6 months, believe it or not, since we've touched it, all of the color will naturally take a lot better now that it's settled in. Early on, it is important to do as much work as you need to get it saturated to where it won't just kind of fade off. So early on, I do recommend kind of hitting it as much as you need to get it to that place. And then I recommend letting everything settle in over the next few months, even a year if you want, and then you can come back and do another pass. Same as what we did with all this, in either version of the sleeve, when it was white and black, and then again when it was color. We did that same idea. I got this all built up to a place where it was good to go, and then came back after we were done fiddling with the back piece for a while, and we hit all the color that needed to be brighter anyway. We hit it again. We didn't do the red and the purple a third time. We just did those twice because I wanted those to be darker, but the thorns and the blue highlights and stuff, that was all done a third time for greater contrast after it all settled in. So, one more thing I wanted to talk about before I call this one was shops have been real slow. I'm seeing it all over the world, and I'm seeing it nearby. And even in our shop, it's been fairly slow. I have a lot of artists that don't have full books right now, and it's Merry Christmas in the tattoo industry. I remember when I started here, this is going to come up late January, so it may not be relevant by then, but that's okay. It's early December here. It's December 2nd. I remember when I started at the shop here, I was asking Lee, the owner, I was like, why do we close at Christmas? It seems crazy. Everyone's got time off. Well, even in good times, December is a sketchy time to work as a tattooer. Everyone's buying gifts and Christmas presents and shit and spending time with family. No one's got time or money for tattoos. And so you get so many cancellations and so many no-shows, and you get people calling trying to get their deposits back like it's a fucking bank and stuff. It gets gross. So after that first year of December, I was thinking, man, we should just take all of December off. And this year, more so than ever. I mean, it's no secret that the tattoo industry is in a type of recession right now. It just is. It is what it is. And there are some people who are doing okay still. And the ones who are, that's great. Rick and Terry are still doing great. But the rest of our artists here are all struggling more than I feel like they should be. What part of the problem is that the industry in general blew up. I knew this was going to happen. When I got in here and seen the way that the industry actually works from the inside, I realized things weren't what I thought they were, and I knew that it would only be so long before everyone and their brother was a tattooer, because it looks like it's a lot of money from the outside in. Realistically, it's not as good as it looks for money. It can be. If you're a big dick swinging, you can make a lot of money doing this. But if you're kind of just an underneath guy, or you don't have a really special niche or gimmick that you're working, it can be a scary time. Feast or famine for sure. Sure, it looks like maybe you'll make $400 or $500 one day after your shop split or your chair rental or whatever the fuck situation you've got. Here we have, we do 60-40 with the artists, and apprentices are 50-50, but they don't pay anything to get an apprenticeship, so it's actually a decent start. And then Rick has worked his way up to 70%, and Terry is 65% with the shop, and he actually pays less working here. I know for a fact because I keep track of what he's paying. I keep track of what everyone pays to work here. He makes more money working here than he would at a chair rental in most chair rentals in this city, because of his portion that he gives per session to the shop isn't as much as what it would be to rent a decent high-end chair rental. And when you own your own business, it can be even worse, because then you have to do all your booking and all this shit. And a lot of tattooers aren't really good at doing that, and they'd end up paying someone to do it anyway, and then you have to get all your supplies and stuff. So especially in an economy where you're not booking every day, I feel like as much maligned as it is to do a shop split for a lot of people talk shit about shop splits and things like this. I think those kinds of shops are going to make a big comeback because a lot of people aren't working every day right now. I see all over the world people doing half off and shit, like people cutting their rates in half for December and January, people doing deals, all kinds of shit. And I think a lot of the people who got into this industry that aren't super established are going to be getting out of it as fast as they got into it. I think that this happens in all industries. You get oversaturation, you get all kinds of things like that, and before long, everyone's leaving. And I think that brick and mortar places like this shop, where we've been here for a long time and we're established, and we have several gimmick artists. We get a lot of blackout and cover up and work over black type projects. Those things are going to keep us afloat because we have people traveling in specifically to see us. Whereas we also do have some people who are booking projects that they aren't as niche. Like we had a girl consulting with my wife the other day who she said straight up in the consult, she said, I wanted to get this tattoo for a couple months now, but there's so many artists in the city and around the city that are all doing kind of the same idea that I didn't even know who to go to. And when I heard that, that's a microcosm of the industry in general right now. It's a completely oversaturated marketplace. I think part of it is it's very cheap to get started as a tattooer. For a lot of people, they don't know a good tattoo from a bad tattoo, so they're not as discriminating as, say, I would be on Remy rants. And it's one of those, well, that person looks like they know what they're doing. And a lot of people don't, like I said, they don't know a good tattoo from a bad tattoo. So the prices are all almost the same. The quality is not. There's a lot of bad work being done in every city, and there's a lot of good work being done in every city, and it's almost the same price usually. That's the funny thing. In this city, the range is typically between 150 to 200 an hour. There are some people above and below that. We have both in our shop. We have people above and below the kind of average in this shop. And then we have some artists that are more or less right in that area. But there are people who are working around us, no names, obviously, who are doing far worse work for even more money. And if you were to look at it, you would assume that that would be cheap. But it's not. It's the same price. It's that people don't have the understanding of things like line quality and shading and color saturation and all this shit, and they more or less just go off vibes, which is totally fine. I understand there's that in everything in life, but when you have that issue, it's not hard to see why we have so many people getting into tattooing. I've been offered apprenticeships for years from lots of people, and I've had the chance to tattoo myself. I've pierced, I've done laser removal, I've done a little bit of everything in this industry. And one thing that I was always very clear on was that I didn't really want to be a tattooer because I don't feel myself to be an artist in the way that I would like a tattooer to be. I would like a tattooer to be someone who could draw, and I don't draw very well. Now, you can teach someone how to draw for sure, and I've seen it done. I've seen it done a million times, but I feel like in this industry, it's better if you're passionate, and there are a lot of people who are getting into it just for the money, which, again, isn't as good as what it seems on the outside in. There's a lot that comes out of that money. Ordering needles isn't what it used to be. They just went up again on Icon here. A box of needles is $50 now in Canadian money, obviously, monopoly money to some people. Whereas a needle order not long ago, the same box was only $42. So every single time you set up, you're using ink and needles, you're paying a shop split, or you're paying your rent, or you're paying your chair rental, whatever. Or if you're paying someone to do your social media, there's all kinds of shit that comes out of it that the public has no interest in. And obviously it's not their problem, but it's not as good as it seems. And that's a hard argument to make in an economy where everyone seems to be suffering, but it is what it is. Anyway, obviously, I think this shop is going to pull through just fine, but I do think you're going to see a lot of artists kind of closing their doors. I've seen a lot of people taking second jobs and things like this, and it just, I knew it was going to happen. I seen it coming from a mile away, especially when you see there's a lot of people who are ordering their own tattoo machines, and they're doing their own tattoos and shit. They're not good, but a lot of people don't give a fuck about that. So the whole industry's in for a reckoning. I think you're going to see a lot of things changing. I don't think the answer is cutting your rates in half, because you may as well go work at Walmart at that point once you take everything out of it. If you have an artist that works $160 an hour normally and they're going to $80 an hour and you think that's a good thing, that artist is struggling big time, and they're probably not going to be doing it for much longer. Once you take every single needle out of that, if they use a needle per tattoo, well, then that's $10 at least. If they use several needles, it's $10 per needle usually. And then all these other costs coming out of it. By the time you realize that they're not paid for their drawing time or setup time or time that they spend booking their own appointments, you're basically working for, in some cases, less than minimum wage. And I know that's hard to wrap your mind around when you're going to pay something like $500 to $1,000 for a tattoo, or maybe even more sometimes. You don't understand all of the things that are coming out of that. And that's every industry. I understand that's every industry, but uniquely, I feel like people think that tattooers are overpaid. I'm not a tattooer myself. I'll be honest with you guys, I've made more money doing just about anything else than most of the tattooers that I work with at this shop make. And it's more reliable in most jobs as well. So, food for thought. And I really wanted to talk about this because it's very present on my mind right now with my wife herself being a tattooer. She does make more money doing this job than she used to make at her old job, but it's not the landslide that you might think. And that's really only because she was criminally underpaid to be a support worker. I actually think what she used to do was harder than what she does now, and it paid less. So, yeah, there is that. Anyway, I will talk to you guys here again soon when I have my back piece hopefully refinished totally, but we'll see how far we get. Not really looking forward to the day, but I am looking forward to having a newly finished Krampus back piece in time for the holidays. All right, I'll talk to you guys again soon. Have a great day.